like, I don't feel as if, like, she should have been arrested. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, you know, people have discussions and emotions and stuff like that. But she had like things that she needed to work on for herself, of course. And so do I, so do you, like everybody. And
what if I told you one of Track and Field's most celebrated comebacks just took a turn so shocking it might erase years of hard work in a single night? On July 27th, Sha'Carri Richardson, the sprinter whose career had been rebuilt from the ashes of past controversies, was arrested after an altercation with fellow U.S. track star Christian Coleman. TMZ obtained and released the video, and it's as damning as it is uncomfortable. The charge? 4th-degree domestic violence. She was booked on the 27th, released on the 28th, and by morning the footage had ignited a storm that went far beyond sports headlines. The images are clear. Richardson is the aggressor, while Coleman appears passive, almost trapped. This isn't rumor or hearsay, it's a visual record of a public incident. And here's the part sparking outrage. If Coleman had been the one throwing the blows, would we even be talking about a controversy? Or would we already be writing his career obituary? That question alone is about to send shockwaves through the sport. The footage forces a confrontation with an uncomfortable truth. Society treats violence differently depending on who commits it. In the video, Coleman is visibly on the defensive. He doesn't push back, doesn't retaliate, just moves in an almost circular pattern as if trying to remove himself from the confrontation without escalating it. Richardson keeps advancing. Around them, bystanders instinctively give the pair a wide perimeter, their body language saying what their mouths won't. Something serious is happening. And here's the crux of it. In sports, when a male athlete lays a hand on a woman even once, the fallout is swift and unforgiving. Sponsorships are cut, appearances canceled, and the athlete's name becomes synonymous with scandal. Yet in this case, some corners of the track community responded with shocking casualness, as if gender should alter the moral weight of the act. If we truly believe domestic violence is unacceptable, it must be unacceptable across the board. The question is, will the people who set the rules hold Richardson to that same standard? Let's slow this down and examine exactly what's on that tape. The pair comes into view mid-conflict, Richardson already striking Coleman, which means the altercation began before the cameras caught it. Coleman moves slowly, almost dazed, circling while Richardson stays on him. She's relentless, her movements sharp and purposeful. Coleman doesn't raise his hands in defense, doesn't seem to know where to go. It's the kind of body language that speaks volumes without a word. Bystanders are present, but they hang back. There's a palpable tension in the air, as if everyone knows this is a line they don't want to cross. At one point, Coleman bends down to pick something up, maybe dropped in the scuffle, maybe unrelated, but the moment is telling. Even in that small act, Richardson remains engaged in the confrontation. This isn't an isolated burst of anger. It's sustained, prolonged, and very public. Which begs the question, if this is what happens in front of strangers, what happens when there's no audience? That's the most chilling part. Public violence is rarely the whole story. Experts on abuse patterns will tell you that someone willing to lash out in public has likely done far worse in private. Richardson's behavior in the footage isn't fleeting, it's steady, measured, almost as if the location doesn't matter. Coleman never once responds physically. He takes the verbal and physical blows, shrinking into himself as if this isn't his first time enduring it. For survivors watching, the signs are hauntingly familiar. The aggressor confident in their dominance, the victim retreating into silence. Richardson herself has been outspoken about dropping dead weight in interviews, making subtle jabs about her personal life. In hindsight, those comments feel loaded. If she's this bold in an airport or public venue surrounded by witnesses, it forces a grim reframe of those past remarks. And it leaves one lingering thought. If this is just the tip of the iceberg, the unseen part could be far worse. When you connect the dots, an unsettling picture forms. Back in June, after losing to teenage sprint phenom Maurice Cleon at a Star Athletics meet, Coleman confronted the teen, accusing him of disrespect for celebrating. At the time, many dismissed it as wounded pride. But now, in light of the Richardson footage, some are reinterpreting it, not as arrogance, but as projection. If Coleman has been living in a private situation where his dignity is repeatedly undermined, those hypersensitive reactions in public start to make more sense. None of this excuses his own career controversies, the missed drug tests, the suspensions, but it paints a more complex portrait of a man under strain. Sometimes the battles athletes fight off the track seep into their performances and interactions. And if this dynamic with Richardson has been simmering for months or years, it could explain a lot about both athletes' recent behavior. Which brings us to the question of what this means for their futures. Track and field is ruthless when it comes to reputation damage. We've seen Olympic medalists and world champions lose everything over far less. Fred Kerley's example looms large, shunned from certain competitions over an incident he didn't even start. The moment public trust erodes, opportunities vanish. If a male sprinter were caught on tape in Richardson's position, the reaction would be immediate. Sponsors gone, meet invitations rescinded, world championship selections questioned. Yet here the reaction feels split. Some have rushed to defend her, citing past hardships and her fight to rebuild her career, but that narrative may not survive the weight of an actual criminal charge. This is no longer just a PR problem, it's a legal one. The governing bodies, sponsors, and Diamond League organizers now have to decide, is the standard applied equally to all athletes, or is star power still enough to buy leniency? That decision could define the next decade of this sport. Since the footage went public, the track and field community has fractured. Richardson's supporters argue this is a misunderstanding, an overreaction by law enforcement, or a private matter blown out of proportion. Her critics, including many survivors of abuse, insist the video is irrefutable evidence of a pattern that cannot be ignored. The gender dynamic has fueled the fire. Male victims often face skepticism, their experiences downplayed or dismissed entirely. This isn't just about athletics anymore. It's a cultural debate about how we perceive and prosecute domestic violence. And in the age of social media, public opinion can swing faster than any court ruling. The hashtags are already dividing along fault lines, with some calling for her suspension and others framing her as the victim of a smear campaign. The legal outcome will matter, but the court of public opinion is delivering its verdict right now, in real time. The road ahead is uncertain. Richardson will have her day in court, but the bigger trial may be the one happening in headlines, group chats, and comment sections. Will governing bodies like USATF and World Athletics take action? Or will they treat this as a personal matter outside their jurisdiction? Will sponsors quietly back away? Or will they gamble that her fan base is strong enough to weather the storm? And what about Christian Coleman? Will he remain silent to avoid fueling the fire, or speak out to set the record straight? One thing is certain. This incident has forced the track and field world into a conversation it can't sidestep. Domestic violence is not a gendered issue, and accountability cannot be selective. Whether this marks the beginning of Richardson's fall from grace, or the moment the sport finally confronts its own double standards, will depend on what happens next. But one truth is unavoidable. The footage is out there, the questions have been asked, and there's no going back.